talk to us about everyone out there loving their coffee, loving their peanut butter and jelly, or as I'd say, jam sandwiches. They're loving your Uncrustables in particular. Baking is going great guns. How do you make this permanent, this shift? How do you lock it in?
Well, first of all, Caroline, thank you very much for having me. You know, the current environment we're in with the pandemic and all of this eating at home clearly has a very strong impact on our results. But I would argue that our underlying growth is still there. So we are focused on making sure that we have a safe and secure supply chain for all of our consumers. And there are a couple of ways that we can keep these new consumers. If you think about coffee, for example, people are consuming more coffee at home because they're not going through the drive-through. And they're forming new habits, brewing coffee at home on a daily basis. So there are two things that we can do. The first is having a strong supply chain, and really that just comes down to making sure that our products are on shelf. And then the second thing is, as we picked up 1.3 million new coffee consumers in the last quarter, new households, making sure that we can reach them through marketing. It's marketing. So it's mass marketing with new advertising that we're starting this week on Folgers specifically. And then it's using data to very effectively reach those new consumers and engage with them through social media or through their mobile devices.
And how are you seeing that unfold? Of course, we saw what was a continuation almost of the first wave really hit home in areas such as Texas, Arizona, California. How, as you see some of those numbers improve when it comes to coronavirus, do you see a change in sales as it goes? And how are we starting to see that change in taste and change in use case? Or has it already remained pretty solid, the using of coffee at home and not wanting to go back to your Starbucks anytime soon?
We believe it's remained pretty solid, actually, because as these new habits form, consumers are actually rediscovering brands that they may have lost touch with over the last few years. So whether it's Jif peanut butter or Uncrustables being a completely new item for them, and even in coffee, just the way they consume it, folks realize that they can brew a cup of coffee for anywhere from 10 to 50 cents when it might cost $2 outside the home.
So, Mark, this is still a relatively competitive environment for a lot of the products you sell, not just the human food products here, but, of course, what we also see in the pet food space as well. Can you give us a general idea as to what type of pricing power your company has at the moment?
Well, we actually just worked through a pricing activity on peanut butter. We have had increased costs on peanuts because the crop had some quality issues this last crop. And so partnering with retailers, our retail customers, we were able to pass along a very judicious price increase. So at the end of the day, pricing power is still there. The pet category is a bit different in the sense that pets eat at home every day. So we're not seeing a massive surge in pet food consumption, but we are seeing a very strong surge in pet snacks consumption. And that's because we're home more, we have more opportunities to give our pets these treats. So where our pet business is really strong is actually in cat and then in pet snacks. And so we play across the entire value chain and multiple segments in pet, and the dynamics of that category continue to be more or less similar to the way they were pre-pandemic.
And Mark, pet food is your biggest segment. Are customers sticky or price conscious?
Well, it depends on the consumer. They're actually both. You have consumers who are willing to spend whatever it takes on their pet. And let's face it, many of us probably spend more on our pets than we do on our children, which in some ways is actually a sad thing. But there are many consumers out there who are truly price conscious. And so because we have brands like Meow Mix and 9 Lives, which are doing tremendously well, and then we have higher end brands like Nutrish, we play in all of the full spectrum of the category. So we have offerings for every consumer.
Every consumer, not just in the US, but also you've got an international business. How are you finding that from a global perspective?
Yeah, our international business is primarily Canada and some export business. As we acquired these North America-centric brands over the last couple decades, our international footprint actually has shrunk. But our Canadian business is relatively large. It's about a $500 million business. It is very centered around baking. And as you can imagine, those brands are up significantly. Robin Hood flour. Canadians tend to actually do a lot of scratch baking, and so we're seeing those trends up significantly in Canada.